This podcast is brought to you by Penji. Penji is a creative subscription service that gives you access to pre-vetted, agency-trained creatives from all over the world. From graphic design to illustrations to social media management and web development, it's all included for one monthly price. It's time to say goodbye to the hassle of searching for top-notch creative talent. With Penji, you get quality and consistency delivered right to your inbox every day, carefully crafted for you by humans. So meet your new creative team today. Head over to penji.co for more and enter the coupon code located within the podcast show notes.
Alrighty, hello everyone, and welcome to the Fully Managed Podcast, the podcast where we discuss marketing and business tips to help assist you on your business journey. I'm your host, Shannon, Penji's partnership coordinator, and I'm joined here today with a very special guest, Marisol Ballen from Stock Press. Thank you so much for coming on with me today.
Thank you, Shannon, for
I
having
appreciate
me.
it. Thank you. I really like your glasses, by the way.
Thank you. Yeah, I tend to have that reactions every time that I use them on any day. They're not the normal ones, and I do feel that they look nice. So thank you.
Yeah, I like the color. I think they're really pretty.
My favorite color. So yeah, everything.
Ah, okay. The magenta or like just pink in general?
It's the magenta more.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that's a unique pink. Pink purple. I like the in-between color. So could you just start by telling us a little bit about yourself and kind of your journey up to this point in your career?
Sure, guys. Well, I had the privilege to study in France. That's where I started just my career that I know right now, because I studied economics, and that's not a usual path to end up in marketing. But a teacher, when I was in high school, told me that that was a really good mix, just to be like very number related or numbered like focused. And I said, okay, I am good with numbers, I can do this. And he told me that in France you could like choose your path right where you were studying. You could change or even just go and specialize in what you thought might be the best path. So I started with economics, and then I went and did my master's in marketing. And I do feel that this is important for all of you to know. It's just that I feel that being in marketing and knowing about numbers, that has been for me a very useful tool. And then when I finished my studies, I decided that I wanted to come back to my country in Colombia just to see what it was to work in there, like worked in Colombia, seeing if that working space was something that I liked there. And I missed a lot my family, so I wanted to go back. And I started giving French lessons because I couldn't find a job. That was really hard for me. But that French lesson turned into be my path, or the way for me to go into a French company. That's an insurance company where I started. And in that time, it was 2014 when I started really working in marketing. The digital marketing was not something that was so everywhere like it is now. So I started there and I created that marketing department in the company, and I focused myself in all the digital aspects of marketing, just because I really love how marketing performance can be now measured thanks to that digitalization, if we can say that. So I started there, and then I moved to a human resources company. So I've always been working in mostly services companies. So it's marketing services, which is quite different than product.
Mhm.
I've been focusing mainly on B2B, which is other marketing area that is not that like similar than B2C.
Mhm.
So now after that on human resources, I jumped into travel, like EF Education First, which is a company, a very known company worldwide, where you can go and learn a language abroad. So there and stayed for a year. And then I started to be more curious about those startups and the startup world. So I went and the digital tech world as well. So I went and worked for an ERP software company. Then I jumped to another startup that a friend from high school decided to create. And that friend of mine, like really, really intelligent. And I do have him in a very high position in terms of his professional career. So I decided to jump with him and we started that startup with him. However, at the end, like the situation, there's a lot of aspects that made that startup didn't turn out to be like successful at the end. And I had the need to be recommended to this new startup where I'm at right now. Softwares is an
Mhm.
American startup that it's like a digital asset management software. And I've been there for the past year and really, really happy to be joining this team because I do love the product that selling, the solution that we're solving, like the problems that we're solving more than the solutions. I do like a lot where I am right now. So yeah, that's me up until now.
That's really great. And that's an incredible amount of experience. And I can definitely understand the economics path. I had went to school for political science, which has relatively nothing to do with marketing, but I think that it definitely prepared me a bit for the role because of the people aspect of it. Like, a lot of my major was debating and like convincing people of something. And I feel like psychology kind of goes into both roles. And I
Yeah,
can
I do
understand.
totally. Like I feel that having different or a very complex or different background in your path in terms of like your professional path, that gives you a head like an edge, like a difference against a lot of other profiles that are out there.
Yeah, something I really like about marketing is a lot of times when I talk to different people in marketing roles, they didn't really have a linear path to their marketing position. They kind of were in different fields or they went to school for something different. And I I enjoy that because one, I think that everyone has different perspectives on how they do things, which I think is important and fun to learn about. But also that there are so many things or aspects of life that can contribute to you being good at this role. And it's interesting because I feel like there's not a lot of positions in the workforce like that, where you can have a non-traditional background and still be efficient at something.
Yeah, totally agree. And I do think that the fact I was thinking this today even. Like I was looking at my LinkedIn profile and and I was like just seeing it and I realized that I moved a lot between industries as well.
Mhm.
And I think that doing that has teach me or taught me like a lot of really important things in my professional life. That's the way I think that I've learned the most, just because changing industries, changing company gives you that push where you have to just push yourself to be better, to understand the new industry, a new company, like working with a new people every time. That gives you that stretch of getting out of your comfortable zone every time you change. That's what you're doing. So I do feel that sometimes when you push hard, and for example, for me, just being in this company, I'm not used to working English. Like English is not my first language. I even speak better French than English. So
Mhm.
for me, just working in English full time was a really, really huge challenge. But I found myself that if you don't do or if you don't face those channels, you will never grow as much as you can. Like
Mhm.
for me, just being here and just being able to work in a different market and understanding that market better just because I can work with a US company, that makes a whole difference. Definitely.
Yeah, I can definitely understand that. I think having to be out of your comfort zone is obviously an adjustment for everyone, but I think you get to learn more and different perspectives too. When you're not used to something, you can get all of this different experience from hands-on approaches rather than just learning about it outside of that environment.
So
Yeah, and I think that, and I don't know myself because I am very poor at learning languages. Unfortunately, I I do hear that being in the environment with the language is much more helpful in learning it better than just
totally.
trying to study it. As I have taken many languages, have not effectively learned any of them.
Don't worry,
So
you
that's
can
much
take
more
notes.
helpful.
And English,
English,
it's the one that you
English.
can with that you can manage yourself.
Yes, I am very lucky that English is the valuable one over the global landscape. Unfortunately, that I I had taken German in college, and they kind of related it to it put into perspective how difficult it must be to learn English, because they said that German had very similar grammatical intricacies as English did, and it put into perspective to me how difficult it was to learn German, having the parallel of English, knowing, okay, it must be. I always thought it was very
I
difficult to learn
thought,
a language.
but
English
just
is difficult.
thing to be like okay with yourself is just know that for me, I tried to learn German at one point, and it's hard. Like it's easier English than learn German, even if they like anything else, everything that they just told you, like it might be true, but learning English, I do think that it's definitely easier than just learning German.
Yes, I hope so, but I also it put into perspective to me how difficult it must be for English to not be someone's first language and learn that, because the grammatical rules are kind of parallels. So it made me.
When you try to do or to express what you have in your mind in another language and in a word like environment, it's really hard when you don't have that like say like you cannot do it as quickly as you want just because you have to think a lot more. So talking to someone yesterday and he even told me because he's working with me in the aspect and he needed to just speak in English at some point, and he, oh my god, I feel so dumb in English, like I'm so much more intelligent in English. That's true. Like when you learn other languages and all this stuff, of course that if you can speak your native language is easier, but as I said, when you push yourself, you will get so much better results at the end just having more languages, for example, to speak in and work with different type of companies around the world just because you know a lot of other languages. That's pretty awesome, I think.
Yeah, I know. I definitely think that's awesome. Something that I'm always been curious about. Do you think in Spanish? Like, is that the language that you like have thoughts in, or do you ever think in like different languages? I've always thought about this when people learn different languages, like what their
Like,
internal
really?
dialogue is.
I still think in Spanish, like that's my
Okay.
native. Which when I was in France, I did manage to sometimes even had like dreams in French.
Ah,
And
that's so
that's
interesting.
when I said, "Okay, this is weird."
Okay.
And I, apart from that, I do feel what everybody thinks in their native language. It's hard for me to think in another language. I'm not sure if I don't I if I need to be more immersed in the culture in the day to day, just switch to thinking in another language. But for now, for me, my thoughts are in Spanish.
Interesting. That's just I know that's not a marketing based question, but I was just really curious. I always my one of my best friends is Russian and her first language is Russian, but she basically learned English and Russian in tandem because she moved to the States very early on in her life.
Okay.
But she thinks in both, but it's kind of I thought that was very interesting because I don't know another language enough to be able to think in another language. I know broken Spanish and like 5 words in German. It's not, but it's just a very interesting concept to me of how people think. But anyway, I'll move on to some more marketing questions.
And how
This is a curiosity based one. So it seems like I don't know specifically if your role right now you're managing a team, but in the past it seems like you have. Um I was wondering, how do you kind of ensure that everyone on your team kind of feels cared about and supported when going through a task or a campaign or a project? Because I know it's very sometimes people can get overloaded and it's difficult to make sure that everyone is effectively using their time and not doing too much or doing too little.
just as an introduction to the answer to that question, I do feel that it's important for me to say to you that for me, like the biggest challenge that I've been having since I started working has been to manage people.
Hmm.
That's really hard. And doing it well is even harder. So you can say that you can manage people, but no, not everybody is meant to manage people. So that's something that I've learned through the years of experience. I didn't think, or I don't think that I was a good leader when I started being a leader. It's something that I've learned through the years, as I said. And what I've learned is that you need to be there for everyone or every person from your team. Like you cannot leave them hanging. And that's a feeling that if you manage to do it right, people that are working under you will be so appreciated of your time and your effort always being there for them that even their work will be better just because of that maybe responsibility towards you. Yeah, I do think that something else is that you need to establish like close relationships. You cannot be a stranger for your team members. You need to be there and you need to be almost like a friend, a friendly relationship. If you think that right now or nowadays with all the Gen did people and these old generations, new generations that are coming into the work speed, I do feel that you need to create that relationship just aside from working. Just be vulnerable and show yourself like you truly are. That authenticity, I feel that that really makes a change in people. And the most important thing that I always tell my team, even if it's their first day in the team, is that I trust them. If I decided to hire them, you need to 100% trust that they will do a good job. If that trust at the end is not met, or like if you feel that you cannot trust the work that they are delivering, that's where the trouble starts to come. Because if you as a leader cannot trust what they are doing, you start micromanaging, for example. And that's the
Hmm.
worst case scenario. Like nobody likes to be micromanaged. So if that happens, there's no turning back. Like earning back the trust from your leaders or towards you, it's really, really hard. But I do feel that those three things are the main things for me to be able to lead a good effective team.
I think those are definitely great foundations for a good team. A question that came up while you were explaining this for me was how do you also do this and maintain your own sanity? Like, how do you make sure that you aren't um putting too much of yourself into your team and not your own work, if that makes sense.
You need to create like work frames. And by the way, work frames, I do think that they are like meetings, for example. And these well, they're not new, but agile um, structures, strategies like Scrum or these type of tools that are now available for leaders to organize teams that started as like product teams focus. Now they are migrating towards marketing and other areas in the company, but you could use those frameworks, and they are really important for someone that manages a very large team, just because you have those times. So, for example, if you need to be there for them, you will have like 15 minutes daily meetings with your team where everybody can say to you, like, I have this stopper or I have this blocker. Can you help me? Always be available in terms of Slack messages or in the chat, whatever tool you're using in your company. But being available, it's really important. And for you to be available, you need to create those spaces, specific for you to be available. And also give the tools to the for the team to know exactly when you're not available. That you will try to integrate different tools. Like if you have Google Calendar, try to give an integration with Slack so that people know that you are in a meeting, and that's why maybe you are not being able to answer like directly or immediately to that message. So having those word frames, I do feel that makes you like available, not available, and that also gives you the time to do your job as well, not only being there for them, because of course you have to be there for them, but you also have to do a lot of other things not related just to manage the group or the team, whatever.
Yeah, of course, it's like setting clear boundaries is kind of like I can be there for you, but at these um and yeah, being able to explain that you're not it's kind of having those fail safes of explaining where you are or why you're not answering is very helpful for the team to know that you're not just avoiding them or not answering something.
And always asking as well, like for the relationship and friendly relationship that I was talking, you need to go more than just the professional settings. You need to care about their lives up until what they want for you to know. And you don't, I mean, if they don't want to tell you things, that's not an issue. But just you being showing that you care. That so asking them about their personal lives and not only their professional lives, that helps you go through that threshold of not being just their boss or their leader. You are more than that. You can be a friend and just acknowledge that life is hard. And sometimes you are not having a good day and your performance will not be the best.
Yeah, I think that's really important to be realistic of expectations too, because when you understand those things and those aspects of their life, then you can kind of understand where they're at all times. And that's really helpful to kind of understand in a certain situation that maybe they're not doing their best work, but it's not because they're being lazy or they're not um communicating effectively. It's just because they have a bad day or there's something going on in their lives. And it's very helpful to know that and be clear on the work that they're able to do. And it's just not at that point in that moment in time. And I think that makes a really good leader because you do have to have a level of care for your team and you have to understand them and meet them where they're at.
Yeah,
Yeah.
total.
Okay, so we'll move on to another question. I think we're spending a really like good amount of time on each one though. I like that we're going into depth a lot. I think that is better than making sure we answer like 10 set questions. Appreciate the in-depth responses because I think they're much more important. So thank you for giving me really
Of course, like
helpful answers.
on it. So I guess that if it takes longer or I give too many details, just tell me and I'll stop.
No, never, never. I would never. I think that you are providing comprehensive answers to things, so I really appreciate that. Um, so could you talk about, okay, so you personally, not a team, not anything else, what do you think that you add to the marketing space? Is there anything that you think you do differently than the average marketer, or something that you think should be implemented more in the marketing space that you do?
Well, as I told you at the beginning, I do feel that for me at least, like this marketing page is so large right now, like marketing so broad. Like you could talking about a lot of things inside marketing.
Mhm.
However, I do feel that performance marketing, as the name says, like performance, has been a really important aspect of the growth or the development marketing nowadays, just because prior to the digitalization of marketing, it was really hard for you to measure success. Right now, measuring success in marketing campaigns is much more easy, or it's easier just because digital marketing is here and you can have a lot of digital actions towards different campaigns you're putting in the market. So, in my opinion, what I can bring to that phase, that's really in terms of performance, that analytical and number related aspects or analysis to things.
Mhm.
However, I still have a lot of passion for design, and I
Mhm.
learned through the years that if you don't put your eyes into the design of things, things have to look pretty. Even if you think so. And there's a lot of people now that are in the market of numbers, very analytical people. They think that design that don't matter, and it does matter. I mean, it does matter, and it matters a lot. So I do feel that balance between being very focused on numbers and being really focused on design aspects as well has managed to help me a lot in my career, just to get really good campaigns to like in the market and of their life, like, and the results are there. And of course, like, there's something really important in my mindset, and it's that you need to think, and I do think like that. I'm not scared of failing. And I do feel that it's really important. If someone is scared to fail, never move forward, and you will never find out like that viral campaign or that thing, just because you're scared of doing things differently. So if you can fail fast, that's the real difference from. And I do feel that I don't know, I try to be humble in that aspect, but I do feel that I love to fail. I mean, I'm not and I
That's good.
push out really fast new concepts. And if it's a silly idea, I'm pretty sure someone will tell me that. And if I cannot make him change or her change opinion, that means that maybe my idea is not the best. But if I do believe in my idea and I do think that results might be positive, I try to push it even if it fails. I don't care.
Yeah, no, I think that's really incredible, and I think it's really valuable in the marketing space because, as I've talked to many people about the idea that marketing is a gamble. It doesn't. It's not something that's guaranteed to work. You can look at all the data and do everything right, but it still might not work out the way that you planned, and that just means that you just have to try something different. There's so many ways of doing things, and that's the blessing and the curse of marketing and being in the and
Yeah.
navigating the space.
And I do feel something that you just said, like you have to try so many things at once. And that's really important for people that are listening or whatever. I feel that they have to do things in an organized way. because if they try a lot of things just because they want to try a lot of things, that they don't get those things organized, at the end you will never know what worked, and that even worse than failing, because if it and you cannot replicate that or grow or scale that campaign, that strategy. It's like if you never done it, like the same. Just you need to be careful, and that's where the analytical part of things come up. And what, like, you need to be sure that if you create this and this, you can measure and you can see which one of the channels or the campaign perform better because of your decisions. But if you don't manage to measure your success, you will never be able to know what worked and what didn't.
Of course. And you also want to know why you failed. Don't just want to fail and sit there wondering why, or just move on to the next thing, because you might just end up doing it again in a different way, or and then you don't get any knowledge from that experience at all. You're just
Exactly.
doing things to try it, and that doesn't really work effectively for marketing when you're trying to be successful.
Yes, exactly.
Well, I think that that was really great advice to end on. Unfortunately, this is all the time we have today. But I really appreciate you coming on and talking with me today. I think you provided a lot of really valuable knowledge, so I really appreciate it.
No, Shannon, thank you for inviting me. It was a really nice conversation. And if you need anything, please, you can just contact me again, and I will be happy to just be here, or whatever you need from me, I'll be there.
Thank you so much. And also, thank you for everyone watching or listening. Please don't forget to like and subscribe to listen to more stories like this and gain knowledge like I get to do through the podcast every time. Thank you so much.
You've been listening to Fully Managed, brought to you by Penji. Check out the show notes to learn more about today's guest, and to learn more about Penji, the human-first creative subscription service, head over to penji.co. And by the way, if you're still listening, it would mean the absolute world to us if you were to share this podcast with a friend, and of course, subscribe.